Welcome back to our channel. Think your quarters are only worth 25 cents? Think again. We're starting with the 1982 Washington quarter. Missing mint marks and weak strikes make some of these super valuable. Next up, the 1988 quarter. Rare off-center errors and misstrikes have sold for hundreds. And the 1998 quarter? Watch out for the wide AM or double dies. Collectors are paying big. Like this video and hit subscribe. You could be sitting on a small fortune. To most people, this is nothing more than 25 cents. A way to feed a meter, buy gum, or disappear into a change jar without a second thought. But this particular quarter, struck in 1982, holds a story very few people know. A story of transition, oversight, and mystery. A story that transformed an everyday coin into one of the most valuable quarters ever discovered, because somewhere out there, among the billions of 1982 Washington quarters minted, a handful, just a precious few, were struck in error. Not cosmetic errors. Not tiny die chips or wear from circulation. We're talking about full-blown minting anomalies. Ones so rare, so unique, that they've been auctioned for between $46,000 and $116,000. Yes. That's not a typo. Over $100,000. For a single quarter, but how? Why? What happened in 1982 that makes this coin so exceptional? To understand that, we need to travel back to the early 1980s, a time of economic strain and change at the U.S. Mint. Inflation had been climbing, and the cost of producing coins was under increasing scrutiny. As part of an effort to cut costs, the Mint made some major changes in 1982, not just in materials, but in how coins were minted and documented. That year, the Mint stopped producing uncirculated mint sets for collectors, a decision that created a kind of black hole in quality control and record keeping. For years prior, these sets had served as a checkpoint for catching die varieties and production inconsistencies. Without them, many 1982 coins were released into circulation with little scrutiny. Mistakes that might have been caught in earlier years simply weren't noticed, and that's where the 1982 Washington quarter comes into focus. While most quarters minted that year were standard copper-nickel-clad pieces, weighing 5.67 grams, a few quarters, very few, were accidentally struck on 90% silver planchets, left over from the Mint's earlier runs. These planchets weren't supposed to be used anymore. Silver quarters had been discontinued after 1964. But some blanks remained, tucked away in storage or mistakenly fed into the presses. When they were struck with 1982 quarter dies, the result was a hybrid, a modern coin with a classic silver core. Even more astonishing, some of these coins also showed double die obverse errors. This means that during the die creation process, the hub and die didn't align perfectly. When this flawed die was used to strike a coin, it created a ghosting or doubling effect in key areas of the design, particularly in the date, the word Liberty, and Washington's profile. Together, these two errors, a wrong planchet and a double die, made the 1982 quarter one of the most prized finds in modern U.S. numismatics. A silver coin masquerading as clad, hiding in plain sight. The coin's rarity wasn't fully appreciated until years later, when collectors began discovering inconsistencies in weight and appearance. Some of these silver-struck 1982 quarters had found their way into rolls, cash drawers, even pocket change. They went unnoticed for decades. But when certified grading services began examining them more closely, testing weight, composition, and strike, they confirmed what some collectors had long suspected: this wasn't just another quarter. It was a ghost from the Mint's past. A coin born from oversight, with the soul of another era, and it didn't take long for the marketplace to catch up. In a 2023 auction hosted by one of the leading numismatic houses, a verified 1982 Washington quarter struck on a 90% silver planchet with a double die obverse sold for over $116,000. Another example, slightly more worn but still confirmed authentic, fetched $46,000. That's the kind of value that transforms a casual collector's find into the story of a lifetime. But what does this mean for you? It means there's a chance, however slim, that a valuable piece of American history is sitting in your pocket, a coffee can, or a coin jar right now. Because these coins weren't all pulled from circulation. They weren't hoarded in safe deposit boxes. Some were spent, exchanged, lost, forgotten, and the 1982 quarter is especially tricky, because it looks so familiar. So how do you know if you have one of these rare pieces? First, start with the basics. Weight. A standard clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams. But a silver planchet weighs around 6.25 grams. That slight difference could be the key to discovering a fortune. Use a precision scale. If your 1982 quarter feels heavy, it's worth a second look. Next, examine the edge. Modern clad quarters show a distinct copper-colored layer sandwiched between two silver layers. But a silver planchet has no copper stripe, its edge is pure silver in tone. That clean edge is a big clue. Then look at the design, specifically the obverse. Use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe to inspect the date, the word Liberty, and the motto, "In God We Trust." Doubling in these areas may appear as shadows or soft echoes of the lettering and numerals. If you spot that, you're staring at a double die obverse, a major minting error, and if your quarter shows both the silver planchet and the double die, then you're holding more than a coin. You're holding a piece of American minting history, an error so rare that even seasoned collectors may go their entire lives without seeing one in person. Coin collecting isn't just about hoarding old money. It's about curiosity. It's about uncovering stories left behind in metal. It's about looking closer, asking questions, and sometimes, being rewarded with a small miracle, because somewhere out there, someone has a 1982 quarter worth over $100,000 and doesn't even know it yet, and that someone could be you. So go ahead. Check the drawer. Dig into the old coffee can. Weigh that quarter you almost gave to the soda machine. Because lightning can strike. History can resurface. And one small, forgotten coin can become the discovery of a lifetime. Every day, we pass these coins along without a second thought. Into vending machines. Across countertops. Down into couch cushions, forgotten until the next time we're short on change. But sometimes, in this river of everyday coins, one slips through the cracks. A coin born from an error. An accident. A moment when the precise, mechanical rhythm of the US Mint faltered, and created something astonishing, and that's exactly what happened with one 1988 Washington quarter. On the surface, the 1988 quarter looks like millions of others. George Washington's profile. Liberty, etched proudly above. In God We Trust, to the left. The year below. The reverse side, too, is familiar, a powerful eagle, wings outstretched, perched on a bundle of arrows. It's a design burned into the memory of generations. But one coin from that year is not like the others. Not even close, because in 1988, a rare mistake occurred. A coin was struck with two major anomalies, a wrong planchet and a double die obverse. And that combination, so subtle, so unlikely, would lead to this coin being valued between $40,000 and $102,000, depending on condition, luster, and overall grade. This isn't just pocket change. It's a six-figure mistake. To understand why, we have to dive into what went wrong, and why collectors are still chasing this unicorn of US coinage. In 1988, the US Mint was producing coins at full tilt. Between the Philadelphia and Denver mints, over 1.1 billion quarters were struck that year. The machinery was fast, relentless, and largely automated. But even in that system, human error still played a part. And every now and then, a foreign element, literally, would slip in. That year, at least one quarter was struck on a foreign planchet, an error that shouldn't have been possible, and yet, it happened. A blank meant for a coin of another denomination, or even another country, was fed into the coining press by mistake. It was slightly lighter than a typical quarter, and lacked the telltale copper core visible on the edge of a standard US-clad coin, but instead of being caught and discarded, the coin was struck. And not just struck, but struck again with a flawed die, one that had been improperly prepared, causing the design on the obverse to be doubled. This double die obverse is among the most prized errors in numismatics. You can often see the ghostly doubling in the letters of Liberty, the date, 1988, and sometimes even in Washington's profile itself. The result? A 1 in a billion coin. Misstruck on a wrong planchet, doubled in design, released into the world without anyone noticing. that coin was later discovered by a collector who noticed something just didn't feel right. It was too light. The edge didn't have the usual copper ring. And the lettering, once placed under magnification, showed clear signs of doubling. It was submitted for professional grading, where the true magnitude of the error was confirmed. When it was finally brought to auction, bids came in fast. Seasoned collectors knew what they were looking at. The wrong planchet meant it was rare. The double die made it significant. Together? That was numismatic lightning. The coin sold for over $100,000. And depending on market conditions, other similar specimens could fetch anywhere from $40,000 to $102,000. The value fluctuates, but the importance of the find doesn't, and here's the part that might just change everything: this coin was in circulation. Not preserved in a collector's vault. Not stored in a climate-controlled display case. It had been spent, lost, handled, passed over, and almost forgotten, which means there could be more out there, and if you're wondering whether this coin is still being hunted, the answer is yes. Collectors all over the country are combing through rolls of quarters, buying bulk lots from banks, hitting flea markets and estate sales, just hoping to find another. So how can you tell if you're holding something extraordinary? Start with weight. A standard U.S. quarter minted after 1965 should weigh 5.67 grams. A quarter struck on a foreign or silver planchet will weigh differently, sometimes slightly less, sometimes more, depending on the blank it was struck on. If it's off by even half a gram, you may have something worth investigating. Next, look at the coin's edge. Is the copper core visible? If not, if the edge appears to be solid silver or nickel, it could be a wrong planchet. Then, examine the details. A double die obverse usually shows most clearly in the word Liberty, the date, and In God We Trust. You'll see faint, repeated lines, like shadows behind the letters. Not all doubling is valuable, but strong, clear doubling from the die, not just mechanical doubling, is a sign of a major error. Lastly, don't assume anything is too ordinary to be valuable. That's the lesson of the 1988 quarter. To someone unaware, it's worth 25 cents. To a collector, it's a rare minting mystery that might never be repeated, and here's what makes this all so incredible: every one of these ultra-rare coins passed through someone's hands before they were discovered. They might have bought gas, gum, or groceries. Someone gave away a six-figure coin without ever knowing. So the next time you empty your pockets or dig through your old coin jar, pause. Look. Inspect. You might be holding more than just a quarter, you might be holding a $100,000 story, because sometimes, the difference between ordinary and priceless is just a little mistake, and someone who took the time to notice it. It's just a quarter. A 1998 U.S. Washington quarter. Ordinary in every way, right? It's hard to imagine that something so small, so familiar, could hold a secret worth tens of thousands of dollars. After all, quarters are everywhere. In your cup holder. In your junk drawer. In that plastic tray at the gas station. But sometimes, very rarely, one of those quarters is not like the others. Sometimes, one of those quarters is worth $32,000 to $95,000. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't glow. It doesn't announce itself. That's what makes it so incredible. Because the 1998 Washington quarter that captured collectors' attention wasn't set aside in a proof set. It wasn't minted in limited quantities or struck with fanfare. No, this one slipped through the cracks of the U.S. Mint, born out of a mistake that turned it into a six-figure treasure. To understand why, we have to go back to 1998. It was a quiet year for the quarter. The 50-state quarters program hadn't launched yet. That wouldn't begin until 1999. So the design was still the same one it had been for decades: George Washington's profile on the obverse, the eagle on the reverse. Billions were minted that year. And most of them were flawless, uniform, and forgettable, but not all, because in the flurry of production, an error occurred. A handful of 1998 quarters, just a few, were struck using experimental planchets. Specifically, planchets that were being tested for the upcoming Sacagawea dollar, which would debut just 2 years later in 2000. These test blanks were golden in color, manganese brass in composition, and completely wrong for a quarter, but one of them, possibly more, ended up in the wrong hopper. It made its way to the press where quarters were being struck, and when the dies came down, they imprinted the familiar Washington design onto a golden planchet. A 1998 Washington quarter, struck on a dollar coin blank. This wasn't supposed to happen, but it did, and it slipped through. The coin was heavier than a standard quarter. It rang differently when dropped. Its edge was smooth, lacking the reeded ridges of a normal quarter. And its color, golden, warm, and unmistakable, was like nothing else you'd ever expect to see on a coin marked 25 cents. At first, it was dismissed as a gimmick or maybe just tarnished. But as numismatists began to study it, the truth became clear: this was a U.S. Mint error of the highest order. A Washington quarter struck on the wrong planchet, one meant for an entirely different denomination, and that's not all. Some of these error coins, including one particular specimen, showed signs of a double die obverse. That means the die used to stamp the image was misaligned or shifted between impressions, causing certain features, like the lettering or the date, to appear slightly doubled, as if the coin's image was echoing itself. A coin struck on the wrong planchet is rare. A coin with a double die is rarer still. But a coin with both? That's almost unheard of, and that's why, when this coin came to auction, the bidding war was fierce. Experts confirmed its authenticity, tested the metal content, weighed it, and compared its strike to normal quarters. Every test confirmed it. This was the real deal. The final hammer price landed between $32,000 and $95,000, depending on the condition and certification of the specimen in question. One coin, one quarter, pulled from circulation, transformed into a life-changing piece of history. So now the question becomes, how many more are out there, because this wasn't a collector's piece. It wasn't preserved in a velvet-lined box. This was a coin that went out into the world, passed from hand to hand, spent and forgotten. Which means there's a very real chance another one is sitting in a jar on someone's shelf, waiting to be discovered. So how do you know if your 1998 quarter is one of the rare ones? Start with color. A standard quarter has a silver, nickel-clad appearance. But if your 1998 quarter has a golden hue, like a dollar coin, it's worth a closer look. Then check the edge. A regular quarter has reeded edges, those tiny grooves that run along the side. The dollar planchets used for the Sacagawea coin had smooth edges. So if your quarter has a plain edge, that's a huge red flag. In the best way. Next, weigh it. A regular quarter weighs 5.67 grams. The experimental dollar blanks weighed around 8.1 grams. That's a big difference, and something even a basic coin scale can pick up on. Lastly, inspect the lettering. Use a magnifier and look closely at "Liberty, in God We Trust," and the date, 1998. If you see faint, shadowy doubling, that could indicate a double die, another major error that can push the value of the coin even higher. If you suspect you found one, don't spend it. Don't clean it. Don't alter it in any way. Send it to a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. They'll authenticate it and, if it's the real deal, assign a grade that can help determine its market value, because while the odds are slim, they're not zero. That golden 1998 quarter was once someone's change. Someone's laundry money. Someone's extra coin from the gas station. They spent it without knowing. And somewhere out there, another person may be sitting on the same hidden treasure. That's the beauty of coins. They're not just currency. They're stories. Mistakes. Tiny artifacts that traveled through the world unnoticed, until someone looked a little closer, and maybe now, you will too, because hidden in the most familiar places are the most extraordinary surprises. And one day, you might be the person who finds a 1998 quarter, worth a fortune.